Welcome to the Shift podcast, where midlife, medicine, and mindset meet. We're breaking the silence around women's health and simplifying the path to feeling strong, clear, and better than ever. Hosted by me, Heidi Swap, with insights from Dr. Vohn Watts and stories from real women, the Shift podcast is here to challenge the narrative, empower you with information, and create a new vision for your next chapter. Hey there, welcome back to the Shift podcast. I am Heidi Swap. I am here with my co-host, my podcasting partner in crime, Dr. Vohn Watts. And today I have finally wrangled him. We're sitting down and we're talking about actually one of the very first topics that I ever heard Dr. Vohn talk about. You may have heard the story that it was actually Chelsea, who is my personal trainer and our coach who helps us in the Shift program. She was like, I think you should go and talk to Dr. Vohn. Dr. Vohn had been helping Chelsea figure out her Hashimoto's and her thyroid issues and help heal her gut for a while. And so I drove up to kind of listen to him talk to see what I thought of this guy. Anyway, he's kind of giving this talk, this presentation about the liver and talking about some of the supplements that he has created in his supplement company, which is called Aegis. And I'm just going to spell it because the spelling stresses me out. It's Aegis. 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 That's why I get in trouble. Anyway, it was so interesting to me because I'd never known anything about the liver except for that, like if you drank too much alcohol, that your liver went bad. In that presentation, I learned what the gallbladder did. It was the first time I ever even knew what the gallbladder did. Because I think maybe and maybe I'm the only one, but I just felt like people would say, oh, the gallbladder doesn't really do anything. And so if you need to get it out, it's not that big of a deal. Kind of the same thing with your appendix. Like, who knows why you even have it? If it acts up, get it out, right? I mean, I don't have an appendix. In that lesson, in that presentation, I learned what the gallbladder did. And since then, the number of people that I've encountered that have no gallbladder because it's been removed and have not been instructed, don't know what they need to do for their body to support their body because they don't have a gallbladder. And this was a pretty short amount of time that he was able to teach me. So I thought, you know what? I want to bring that to this audience because I know that you know people, you have loved ones that don't have a gallbladder and that are experiencing health ramifications from that they probably think are just like normal issues that they're dealing with. When you learn today what we're about to learn and the control that you can take back just because you don't have a gallbladder, this is pretty fascinating information for all of us. And so I bring to you Dr. Vohn Watts and his presentation on what the gallbladder is. I mean, probably more people know what this is, but this was like a life-altering moment for me. Because how many people think they don't need their gallbladder? Everyone.
Well, everybody, because they've been told they don't. Oh, no big deal, we'll just take it out. Oh, we'll just take out your spleen. We don't know what it does anyways. We'll take out your appendix. We don't know what it does anyways, even though now they're starting to see that it may be a huge part of helping to maintain and restore the microbiome. So I'm going to tell you right now, every organ in your body has a function. Otherwise, God would not have put it in there. Or
we just don't have extra organs.
We don't. Or whatever you believe in. Even if you just believe in nature, it doesn't really matter. It would make no sense that an organ would be created with no use. And so it's probably one of the most unnecessary surgeries 98% of the time. Now, there are certain cases where, there's some really bad emergency cases that at that point it's like you let the health of that organ go way too long before getting some kind of intervention. So there are those cases, but the vast majority of the time you can completely reverse your gallbladder issues. But let's get to the point where what does it mean if you don't have one, right?
So first just tell us where the gallbladder is, because we've already found out that even though I took anatomy and physiology in college level, that I have some geographical challenges. Yeah. So help us understand where the gallbladder is.
Yeah, so think about how your stomach, your stomach tapers down into like a tube, right? And so then that tube then connects to like the small intestines. And so your food that gets broken down then will then go into the small intestines to then get broken down more and absorbed, and then the rest, pushed out through where we're supposed to go.
Your detoxification system.
Yeah. And so if you think about these two tubes that connect right here, there's a tiny tube right in the small intestine that comes down right here, just a little bit over from where it connects, and that's the bile duct. And that bile duct is a little tiny tube that comes from the bile, small little gallbladder, so it drips bile. So for example, when you eat a fatty meal, your gallbladder will initiate releasing bile when that fatty meal is coming into the small intestines to help emulsify and break it down. Okay, so it's used for a couple different. That's one way it's used.
Bile. Explain what bile is.
So bile. So the other side of the gallbladder is a tube that is connected to the liver.
Okay.
The liver creates bile. Okay. Bile is it's used for a number of things. One, like I said, to help break down food. It also is used to carry waste. Okay. So we're talking like toxins. We're talking excess cholesterol or excess
essentially that's
hormones.
What's excreted from the liver.
The liver, yes.
That's what is a waste product.
Yeah, people talk about detoxing their liver. What's going to happen is when you're detoxing, those toxins will get put into the bile and then pushed out from the liver into the gallbladder, and then the gallbladder stores it. Okay, so you can think about it now, right?
It's a little storage container.
It's a little tiny storage container of, a lot of times there's a lot of
toxic
waste in there. So if you already have maybe a sluggish liver or a sluggish gallbladder, and you're just building up toxic waste in there, or maybe you have some other downstream issues.
And what we need is flow.
We need flow.
From our liver, stores in the gallbladder. When we need the bile to break down.
Release waste, break down fat.
And we hardly ever eat fatty foods, so.
Oh yeah, that's not a thing here, right?
So anything that is, when you say fatty, will you just
I'm talking more like even good dietary fat. I'm not talking like the bad fat you get out of ultra processed food. I'm talking you eat a hamburger. It's fatty. There's
good fat, like in a good sirloin.
Your body still has to be able to break down fats, proteins, all those things, right? And so in order
because fat is we're learning that fat is so essential, and so it needs to be broken down so that the nutrients from it can be utilized, especially for our brain.
Right, and think about it when you've gotten fat or lard on your hand.
It's hard to get it off.
Right? You have to use
thinking immediately
hot water, soap to try to break down that fat to get it off your hands, right?
Yeah, so it doesn't flow.
And it doesn't just break down easily on its own.
Okay. So it needs to be pretty spicy, toxic material.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so when you lose your gallbladder, you have to realize too is a lot of the things that you are breaking down, you also then are able to absorb in the gut. In a lot of those vitamins and minerals that come in, your body utilizes it where it needs. But a lot of that gets stored in the liver too, like vitamin A, D, E, K. You store cholesterol, estrogen, and that's the other thing too. The body will push out excess hormones. Excess estrogen helps recycle stuff. So when you can't break those things down, usually what happens, or when you lose that gallbladder, oftentimes what will happen, people, usually at the beginning, not everybody, but a lot of people, their bowels change. Some people will experience diarrhea more commonly, and then it can shift to constipation, And so, and a lot of people will just have irregular bowels where they're just not normal. They're kind of floating back and forth, and it's hard to maintain
Because
good
depending
bowels.
on what you eat,
Correct.
then you're kind of missing this key component that is supposed to be making it break down so that it can be absorbed. So
Correct.
you've got two problems from the standpoint that the flow of what's
Yeah.
supposed to be going out may either be too thick or too thin. And
Or-
then there's a lack of it broken down to the point that it can actually be absorbed by your body.
Right. So if you can't break things down enough, like use those examples again, vitamin A, D, K, right? If you can't break the food down enough, then you're also not going to be, that can also lead to malabsorption, malnutrition, meaning you may be eating good foods or healthier foods, but if you're not able to break it down completely so you can absorb it, you can become vitamin or mineral deficient. But what happens when that gallbladder is gone, the duct is still going, right? So instead of the gallbladder releasing bile when the body needs it, you just kind of have like a constant drip, right? Regardless of what you're eating. It's just like a constant drip of when the bile is there and it's coming out of the liver, it just is dripping into the small intestines. There's nothing regulating that. And that's why you can have those irregular bowels.
Okay.
Or go back and forth depending on what you eat. And so that's a big one too. But you'll see, I've treated a lot of people without gallbladders. And don't get me wrong, if you don't have a gallbladder, I mean, most of you have lived with it for a long time. It's not the end of the world. You're more than likely not. Most people don't experience these massive health issues. So I'm not trying to alarm anybody. I'm just saying a lot of people that have removed their gallbladders, the majority of people that don't have a gallbladder, if they're not doing something to kind of substitute that in a way, then yeah, they're going to have they usually have irregular bowels, irregular absorption. So, and as you become over periods of years and years and years, when you're vitamin or mineral deficient over periods of years, that's when things start to break down. Like you get back to the whole car model, right?
Right.
After a while, it would eventually break down. But there are things that you can do and that you can take, and you can like take with meals. And so there's a thing called, it's a bile acid called TUDCA. And it's an acronym.
What did you call it?
Bile acid.
Bile acid. Okay.
It's a bile salt. It's a bile salt. Sorry, it's a bile salt. It's called TUDCA. It's an acronym for a really long word.
TUDCA.
It's like Thyroid.
Okay.
It's a long.
We like acronyms better.
Yeah, we'll go with TUDCA. It's easy to remember. And so if somebody doesn't have a gallbladder, then I highly recommend that you take this with each meal. Because then you're also putting that bile in, so it's helping to break down, right? So you're not just relying on, you don't have that gallbladder regulating. It's just like a drip, right? And so this helps to make sure that things get broken down. It also is has a lot of effects on brain health. Lots of peer-reviewed research on this product actually. I believe in Russia it's considered a controlled substance, like a medicine, because it works so well. If something works too well, then it can't be readily able to become a prescription, right?
So the TUDCA becomes a facilitator in your liver or in your gut?
Both, but you're obviously taking it orally.
So
if you're taking it with food, it's getting broken down with the food as you're coming through. But then TUDCA does have all sorts of benefits. There's benefits. So peer-reviewed research shows benefits, I think, with Alzheimer's, dementia, and a number of other like liver health and some other great benefits. Me personally, it's the one product I take every single day.
I mean, it makes sense, especially when we think about the bile is so important for the breakdown of fats and the absorption of fats, which that's really so key to your brain health. And so that would be something that would make the Alzheimer's, dementia, anything happening to brain health better.
Right, because what's the brain made up of? Cholesterol, right?
Right.
Mostly like 30% or more. Around 35% of the brain is made of cholesterol. Covered, yeah.
In it. And so that fat absorption and utilization is so
important for
essential.
the brain. And the reason I kept saying the A, D, E, K, vitamins A, D, E, K, those are fat-soluble vitamins. Oh. So you can't become deficient. And you start thinking, for anybody who wants to know, well, what are some of the symptoms if I'm vitamin deficient of A, D, E, or K? Very easy Google search, hey, what does vitamin K deficiency cause symptoms-wise, or E or D? And if you don't have a gallbladder and you've never done anything, your doctor told you, yeah, you're fine, you don't need to do anything, we took it out, you're good. And you've never done anything naturally to try to help, that process, there's a good chance that you're going to look up some of those vitamins and look at some of the symptoms for deficiency, and you go, oh my gosh, I have that. It would not be shocked at all. And you think of it this way, and for those that have listened to the podcast, the thyroid is kind of what I specialized in. And I worked with all sorts of different thyroid patients, but when I had a thyroid patient that would come in and they would tell me their thyroid's removed, at that point, I'm just like, I can't do anything for it. You remove the organ, now, your body cannot make the hormone anymore. So you're going to have to take the prescription synthetic hormone because your organ is not there. But yet we take away the gallbladder and nobody says, hey, now that you don't have a gallbladder, you're going to need to be taking this. I would highly recommend taking this with food so you can ensure that your body's able to break, especially these fatty meals down, so you can absorb them. Nobody says anything about that. It's kind of like the antibiotic one, right? Going on an antibiotic, it carpet bombs, doesn't delineate between good and bad bacteria. And everybody knows that. This is not a new concept, but yet how many of your doctors tell you, when you're done with this 10-day series, we're going to immediately put you on a pro and prebiotic to try to rebuild the microbiome with really good microbiome because we just killed everything, right? It's like we're missing the second half of the treatment, right? We just take this first half. So if you don't have a thyroid, you can't make thyroid hormone. If you don't have a gallbladder, you can't store and release the bile on demand, which means depending how, and I couldn't even begin to tell you, well, how often is the bile dripping, or how, that leaky bile just kind of dripping in, and when, I have no idea, and I'm sure every human is different, depending on when you've eaten and what your liver's doing. So to eat meals, especially fatty meals, or taking supplements that are fat-soluble supplements, if you don't have a gallbladder, it's kind of like playing craps with, hey, let's roll the dice to see if I happen to break it down, and usually you can tell just by the way your GI reacts after that meal or supplement, but you may also not even be absorbing some of these supplements you're taking, fat-soluble supplements you're taking, if you're not doing something to kind of help replace what the gallbladder does.
So you mentioned a second ago, you said you take it every single day. Mm-hmm. Do you have a gallbladder?
I do. Yep.
And so why would you? I mean, obviously I'm being cheeky.
Yeah.
But why do you take it?
So so the product I developed is not just a tut cup. It's a true liver gallbladder product. It's a combined product because they kind of operate in unison, right? The liver makes the bile, the gallbladder stores the bile, but they kind of work together.
And there has to be some kind of a signaling that causes it to actually drip.
Right. And so for me, the liver controls over 500 processes in the body.
Okay, I just need him to say that one more time because this is wild. Say that.
The liver controls over 500 processes in the body, and I'll kind of break it down. But here's the thing: worldwide, I think it's something like 40% of the population has like some kind of liver disease or 40%? Or liver dysfunction of some sort. In the U.S., it's like 80% have some kind of liver dysfunction. And it's a lot of it's diet and environmental exposure, right? It's just the things, the toxins we're exposed to. And
because the liver gets overloaded.
Well, because the liver is our main detox organ, right? So if you eat things that have pesticides, or you're eating things that have heavy metals, or you're exposed to mold or other toxins, everything processes through the liver. That's why even when you see like everything, and not just toxins, medication, that's why you see most people that have cancer and they go through chemo treatments, the vast majority do not die from cancer. They die from liver failure. because all that chemo is also processing through the liver. And at a certain point, your body can only handle so much for so long, right? And so liver is so important, and all the toxins, all the supplements, all the medications, everything gets filtered through there. And so if you're exposed to a lot of stuff, and in the US, America, we are, based on our diet and lifestyles here, the liver just gets kind of overworked and overloaded. And right now, used to be really concerned with alcoholic fatty liver disease. Mm-hmm. And now actually non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is far surpassing alcoholic fatty liver disease. And people are like, well, what's that? Well, you're even starting to see that in youth.
French fries.
Pizza. Because what's alcohol? It's a sugar. It's a sugar. And what is all processed foods and all the crap and packages that you let your kids eat, and cookies and chips and
simple
and top ramen and mac and cheese. It's all sugars, right? So that's what's causing in cereals and
interesting.
So that's causing non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is a big problem, because then you look at what the liver does. The liver basically makes like 80 or 85% of cholesterol, and cholesterol is not a bad thing. Do not believe it. It is a signal. They've made a totally improper correlation. The studies have all been debunked here. They were false studies. Cholesterol is an indicator that something's wrong. There's nothing wrong with cholesterol. Cholesterol is a fixture. So like when the inflammation gets really high and it starts affecting the integrity of the blood vessels, cholesterol come in like a pothole filler, right? Try to lay down to try to protect it. What happens, they've made the wrong correlation to that. Oh, your cholesterol's high and you have this issue. It's like, no, the cholesterol's high because it's trying to fix an issue. This is the problem over here.
I've never heard you explain that.
Mm-hmm. And so that's the problem. Like, oh, your cholesterol's high. I'm like, okay, well, what's going on? Because when the cholesterol's high, that means your body is trying to repair something.
It's almost like part of the immune.
Mm-hmm. It's a really important part. I mean, you have myelin sheath, so all the nerves that come out of your central nervous system, off your spinal cord, they're covered in these myelin sheath, which is like this white, think of like insulation. Think of wiring, right. And then think insulation around the wiring. That's kind of what it is. And like pretty much, I think almost all of it, if not 100% of it, a very high percentage of that is cholesterol. That's what that is. Same with the brain, like 35 or it's like 25 or 35, somewhere around there.
I mean, it's conducting.
Mm-hmm.
It's conducting those nervous, the electric.
Yeah, think of it like an electrical system. It's exactly what it is. So that's one. Cholesterol. You store a lot of your like, especially your fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, K in the liver, and then when you need them, the liver will release them when it's needed. You store glucose, in the liver. So it helps to regulate blood sugar.
And is it like insulin? Does it have a role with insulin?
Well, yeah. I mean, as your blood glucose and insulin levels shift, your liver will release glucose into the body to help to regulate blood sugar levels. It could go on all the different things it does, but it stores and controls a lot of things. So I used to always be, back in the day, I was really big on the gut, and gut is super important. And I, like, when you put liver and gut next to each other, it's kind of like chicken and the egg. Like, but you can control, if you have a good gut health, you can maintain good gut health with good diet, right? And periodic detoxing. With the liver, it gets put under a lot more than the gut, and it affects so many different processes. Like we talked about the thyroid, 60% of your thyroid converts in the liver to a usable form, goes from T4, gets converted to T3, which is now a usable form that your cells can use. 60% of that happens in the liver. And so I can go on and on of all these different processes. So it maintains metabolism, blood sugars, cholesterol, vitamin stores. I can go on and on of all the things it does. It produces bile, which is where it puts the toxins to push out. And so I take it daily because the TUDCA that I developed is a liver-gallbladder product. So it has TUDCA, but it also has some herbs that are known herbs to help support liver function, like milk thistle, NAC.
That's the one I remember because I didn't.
Yeah, NAC, and humic and fulvic acid. And so that together, I mean, I tell you what, I love that product. I mean, I've made some good products, but that product is, I mean, it's a game changer for physiological health.
This one, like, and I'll say this, my family has benefited from that combination. And I'll just say one of the most typical, I mean, from what I learned from you is I came to Dr. Watts and said, teenage acne. You know, you got a kid who, and moms, you know this, like when you've got a kid that's got a breakout or maybe that's got something really perpetual going on, it's affecting everything. It's affecting
That's their whole world at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their whole self-esteem is riding on this acne, right? And it's coming and going. I mean, I remember like having days that my kids didn't want to go to school because of a breakout that was going on. And I wish that I would have known this sooner, but it's my youngest kid that's home, and Watts was just like, yeah, put him on this liver support, which is an Aegis formula. And it's a 2-part formula. So it's the Tetka, and what's the little squirty thing?
Nanoglutathione.
Yeah.
So glutathiones are master antioxidant and also a big part of liver detoxification. But your liver makes the vast majority of glutathione. And so
if your liver isn't producing that nanoglutathione.
The glutathione. Nano is just the form it's in. It's really small so it can be absorbed.
So it's like a little squirty thing that you squirt right on your tongue, 2 squirts of it, and then you take a little capsule, which is the Tetka. And so quickly, this took care of the acne problem that literally we had tried everything topical. And I think that that's one of the things about skin in particular. And I think there's going to be some future episodes on skin. I think that as women of a certain age, you start to feel like, what's happening with my skin? I want it to look as good as I can for as long as I can. But one thing that I've learned from Dr. Watts, I learned it that day that I first met him, is that anything that shows up on your skin is related to your liver. So if you're thinking about a rash, if you're thinking about dry skin, if you're thinking about acne, eczema, you know, anything that is showing up on your skin is telling you something about the liver. Okay, well, that's wild, because what do we do whenever there's something on our skin? Ointments, lotions.
Which, by the way, everything that's in
serums.
Those ointments and lotions, everything you put on your skin, you have to pay attention very closely to the ingredients, because those ingredients absorb into your bloodstream within like under a minute.
Now it has
good
to
or bad
through,
and then get cycled through
the liver.
And so like, I think I've told this story before, but for those that haven't heard it, my daughter, she had, gosh, I could probably spend a whole episode just going through this, but she basically had eczema really bad from a very young age. And
I don't feel like we've talked about having eczema.
So, okay, well, let me go back here. She was my only child that was almost immediately put onto formula. And this is way before, I was in the natural health space and knew better. But babies are born with leaky gut on purpose. You want it because they're getting their immune system. First of all, they can't develop an immune system until about 18 months of age. So they get their immune system from the mom. And so you pass, you're through the breast milk. And so you want them to have leaky gut so it can get in there, and then they start to develop immune system. They have an innate immune system, but they get an acquired one from things they've been exposed to or things that mom has passed on to them, right? The downside is, because they are also born with leaky gut, go look at the back of these formulas, right? And what's in a lot of these soy, nuts, all these things that these kids have all these allergies to. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason. Some people say there's a causation with gut destruction and from certain vaccines. But for me, I look at it and go, this one makes the most sense to me. They have leaky gut. They're eating things, and it's getting into the blood, like peanut or soy or dairy or lactose, really. And it shouldn't be in there, right? So then the body creates an immune response to it. So this is my belief, because she had it from just pretty much, she was my only kid that went on to formulas, because my wife wasn't producing enough to keep up with her. She's my little softball player that's just friggin', she's always just been muscular and just built a little more, stout and beautiful young lady. And she always had eczema so bad that when you look at it, the scratches, it looked so bad, it looked like she had vitiligo. Because she scratches so bad that the discolorization is so...
Which is a little oozy.
Yeah, and luckily hers didn't get to the point where it was like oozy stuff. It was just really itchy, and especially growing up playing softball, when you'd sweat, and it'd cause it to itch more. Sure. And so it'd get red and irritated, but you could see the difference in skin color.
Now, is eczema considered an autoimmune response?
No, I don't. That was a good question. I don't think so. I mean, in my opinion, it is in a way. Like there's some immune, not autoimmune, but it's definitely an immune response. But I find there a big correlation to the liver. And so as she was growing up, especially being a functional medicine doc and being someone who really specialized in thyroid, we look a lot at the gut, and I was a firm believer back then that the gut, anything, if you're having skin issues, look at your gut. And luckily for me, I finally figured it out, and that's why I practice medicine. You get better and smarter as you work with people and patients. And it was her sophomore year in high school, so she dealt with this her entire life until about 15, 16. And as I really got bigger into detoxification, there's only 3 ways to detox. One is through urine, which goes through the kidneys. One is through feces, which comes through the liver. And if you can't get it out that way because you have a bogged up or congested liver or kidney, then the third way is it'll push toxins out through the skin.
Okay.
So think of a drug addict, right? Someone who's doing drugs and you see they're always picking at themselves. Their liver can't keep up with all that toxic poison they're putting in their body. So it starts pushing it out through their skin. And that's why they get the itchy, scratchy stuff, right? And so when I kind of really got deep into that part of my practice with detox, I was like, you know what? I bet it's her liver. It's got to be. The skin has got to be related to liver. And this was years ago when I figured this out. So I'm like, put her on basically on a liver support product, and within 2 months the eczema was gone and has never come back. And it's been 5 years, 6 years.
And does she have to remain on that?
She doesn't.
You're taking it.
She doesn't. I mean, I tell her, hey, just take it because it's a good product to be on to have good liver health.
Uh-huh.
But no, I don't think she takes it daily. I don't think she's. I mean, you would. You're the doctor's kids don't necessarily
at the Watts house
follow what the doctor says. Take this. They'll take it if I'm there. But on their own, no. But on their own now, they're like, she's out after college. She's like, is she taking everything? I don't know. I don't think so. But she hasn't had the issue since. We cleared that liver out. She hasn't had any more eczema issues. So if you do have eczema, that's a big one to look at, is look at your liver. There's probably a good chance that liver's congested. Now, there are instances when it is a gut connection. But what I found is the majority of the time it's the liver. Any kind of skin issue is the liver.
So I actually have one more question for that. Does athletes that's fungal?
It's fungal.
Is that related to
I'm sure there's a liver component in there, but I think that's more of an immune issue. Because of the athlete's foot, your body hasn't been able to kill and get rid of that mold. I mean, it's a fungus, right?
Right.
And mold can be one of the more difficult things to detox out. So when I go and work with patients to do detox, or when they did, I mean, you can pull heavy metals out pretty quickly. You can get parasites out pretty quickly, environmental toxins.
Using a binder.
Using binders.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Mold, for most of those you can get done in 2-3 months. Usually within 2 months. Mold, it can take 4, 6, 8 months to really get it completely out. It's a lot more difficult to get out of the body, so you have to be consistent. And if you have mold exposure, which you can get checked, you can do. There's different tests like one of the podcasts we did with Dr. Ian, you get the Total Tox Finder from Vibrant Wellness, and then they do a full mold mycotoxin test until you have mold inside of you. If you do, then you really need to get that out because it can cause some of these other things. Because fungus, it's toenail fungus, it's athlete's foot, it's all those things. So your immune system just hasn't been able to get rid of it because there's probably a lot of it.
Okay. So going back just to somebody who has had their gallbladder removed, let's talk about what some of the other issues that they're going to encounter because of that and what they can do to support it. So we've already talked about like bowel issues. What other things do you see in somebody who is dealing with that? We talked about some brain issues.
Well, and the big one, like I said, I think is really, some of the other stuff is very annoying. Bowel issues are annoying. At the end of the day, you can still function, but it's annoying. But if you can't break down food properly to the small enough particles that you need in order for it then to be absorbed, because it has to be broken down small enough to pass into the cells, right? So if you can't break that down enough, and each person's different because everybody's diet's different, right? Some people, they don't like eating these certain things, so they may already be susceptible to be a little bit vitamin A or vitamin D deficient. So now, if they already have that little bit of susceptibility because they don't like to eat certain foods that maybe are high in those vitamins. Well, now when they do eat a little bit of it, and they're not breaking it down all the way, and they're not able to absorb those vitamins well, those people will probably more likely see some of the symptoms of like vitamin A or vitamin D deficiency.
One of the ones I think that we talked about was like arthritis, like feeling like you've got. How does inflammation hook into that situation?
Well, yeah. So arthritis. I mean, you break all the words down. It's literally anything itis means inflammation, and then arth means basically joint inflammation.
Right.
So arthritis, and the thing is the gut controls pretty much the vast majority of 90+%, if not all, but pretty much the inflammation in the body is controlled by the gut. And that's another thing that people don't understand is the gut isn't just there for breaking down and digesting and absorbing, right? It controls the vast majority of inflammation. It also converts hormones in there, and vitamin D, which is a hormone. It also controls your neurotransmitters, so like serotonin and dopamine. I believe somewhere around like 96 to 98% of your serotonin is created in the gut first.
I mean,
but how can you create all that stuff if you can't even break your food down enough to create all these things, right? Or to be able to absorb them. So it can get even more than that, depending on how depending on your diet and your lifestyle and what you're doing. If you have a really bad diet and lifestyle and you don't have a gallbladder, then you could see even bigger issues like even brain health. Because obviously neurotransmitters, but the vast majority of your immune system is also, the vast majority of like your immune cells are in your gut. So it controls your immune system as well. So the gut does a lot of really important things as well. That's why it's called the second brain. But so if you're somebody that does have really bad, you eat crappy food, you're eating fast food, and you're not really eating like healthy food a lot, and you don't really take supplementation, you got your gallbladder removed. Right there already, I know that you're not going to have good gut health.
Is that going to affect your holding on to fat, just pure metabolism issues? Because it's all dependent on all of those little neurotransmitters and all those micronutrients that are coming out.
Right, because you need all of those. First of all, you need
to actually
to function,
make the
right?
ATP to make. Correct.
You need all these vitamins and minerals to make. To go through these physiological processes. I talk about the thyroid a lot. Like if you're iodine deficient, you won't be able to create thyroid hormone because you need 3 and 4 in the T. It's 3 iodine molecules, 4 iodine molecules.
Right, which is
so super simple. I always use that example because it's just a real easy one to understand. That's one pathway. Now you bring in all the other pathways, different hormone pathways, your neurological pathways, and if you don't, if you're not absorbing these vitamins and minerals, you're not going to be able to complete these pathways, which then eventually things break down, which will eventually lead to organ dysfunction, which will then lead to inflammation, which then chronic inflammation will then lead to a disease.
I mean, really, when we start talking about all this stuff, and you have said the words like that the liver is just really far downstream is one of the words that I've heard you describe. Like, if you're looking at a problem and you're going back to the root cause, you know, as you travel all the way back, that liver is kind of the juggernaut, right? Like, because not only is it getting rid of the bad stuff, it's producing the good stuff, it's regulating when things are going to happen, and all of that has to come from your input.
Correct. Being
food or productive supplements. And if then that can't get dispersed, I mean, if any of the, this is where like the body is just the most,
it's amazing,
fascinating thing, because everything just requires the next thing to do its job. And so when one thing starts to break down, then eventually
the next thing
you're going to see.
So think about it,
if
you start limping because you sprain your ankle and you're
you
walking
kick
around.
your toe.
Right. But think you're like spraining your ankle and you're walking around, so you kind of have a limp to it. And so you're compensating. You do that for too long, what happens? Well, now you have a knee problem, right? And then eventually you become a hip problem, right?
It's a lower back problem.
And that's exactly what happens. And now that's a physical example. Now think of a physiological example internally. It's the same thing. When this process isn't able to really do everything it needs, well, this affects this thing, which also can then affect this, and this can also affect this, and this. And everything's interconnected. The human body works as a whole. And that's where Western medicine is failing right now, is that we're so specialized that you have a liver issue or something, go to the liver doctor and he'll run a panel and look at the liver, and that's all they look at. And they're not looking at, well, what all the other things that affect it or it affects, right? You have to look at the body as a whole, because every system has an effect on a different system.
And what's even wild about that is that here we have like this physiological, you know, the nuts and bolts of the nutrition, of the vitamins and the minerals, and then you take and you put on the emotional layer of that, or the nervous system layer of that, or right. How much sleep you're getting, how much movement you're getting, the way that you're even perceiving the world around you, the holistic, like, I guess this is why that it's called holistic, because you can't just take one thing out of it and expect to isolate that.
The perfect example, the gallbladder. Oh, having gallstones, having some gallbladder inflammation and pain. Okay, we'll take that out. Okay, on your way. Okay, well, how many processes does that gallbladder affect? What other things does it affect downstream, which now, because that downstream is now going to affect all the things at the top, coming, upstream, coming right back down, right? Because we absorb those things in the gut to then get dispersed, so these upstream pathways can happen. And so we don't even think about it. We just think, oh, you don't need it.
Right. And so then that's where, like, that doesn't mean, like you said, it doesn't mean you're going to die. If you don't have a gallbladder, you're not going to die. If you don't have an appendix, I got my appendix out 20 years ago, doesn't mean I'm going to die. But what I need to know is what step is now compromised, and what do I need to do every single day to support those things so that we can keep that cycle going. And so that liver support, I think that's why it was just so mind-boggling to me, because, there's a lot of things that we hear about when we go to the doctor, when things go wrong. Literally, I don't think I'd ever even thought about the liver before I met you.
I remember the phone conversation. You called me after you called me and said, "Hey, you think for kids, acne?" And I told you, and then And then you called me, we talked like a week later, and you called, and this is how I answered the phone. I'm like, hello? And I believe this is the first word that came out of your mouth. 4 days, Watts. 4.
I know.
And I'm like, what? What's 4 days? And you're like, that thing you told me about, how to get rid of the acne, and and I listened to you, but I don't know if I really believed you it was going to work. 4 days.
I'm so skeptical of it. I mean, I'm skeptical of everybody, especially, and actually he's kind of gaining some traction with me is what's happening, which then I'm starting to think like, okay, so do I believe everything that he says, or do I just have to start to, so I fact checked him. I got to fact check him still sometimes, but I'm excited about it.
No.
I'm excited about this information because when I run across somebody who is, I'm allergic to this and this. I have arthritis, and so I'm experiencing that arthritis in my feet, in my ankles, in my knees, and in my hands. And so I can't exercise. I can't lose weight because I can't move my body. Also, my thyroid is not functioning, and so I'm hypothyroid. I'm in a hypothyroid situation, and so my metabolism is cracked out. And I'm not a doctor. And so I only have just these little tidbits of information, but I get so excited because nobody needs to believe that because they have arthritis, which is real, that inflammation in your joints is real and frustrating, but that doesn't mean that that's what you're stuck with. What that is your body saying is something has to change so that we can get moving, so that we can move our bodies, so that we can initiate a better response in our metabolism, so that we can get things moving again. Because when, I really love the car analogy, and we've been talking about it a lot. Actually, the last few times we have had a conversation. When you're a mom and you buy you got a 16-year-old, and you're like, I'm so happy that this kid can drive themselves to all the places you've been driving. And every time you get a kid that gets a driver's license, it's like,
they think they're getting freedom.
Oh.
They don't realize we're gaining freedom. This is the most liberating feeling for a parent.
But you think to yourself, okay, how can I get them a car that is good enough, that it's going to protect them, that it's going to run good. We don't want it to go too fast, but also we don't want it to crap out on the side of the freeway. We want, so what do? You go and my husband is actually so good at this, scouring Facebook Marketplace or, whatever the classifieds are. And somehow he just finds these nuggets of incredible cars that's by some guy who has taken meticulous care of this, 12-year-old vehicle. And Eric finds it. And the guy has got these records, right, that he has kept. He has done every single check. This is the kind of oil. These are the miles. And you're looking at this car that's 10, 12 years old, and it runs perfectly. You get my 16-year-old for 3 months, and it's obvious signs of wear and tear. But our conversation has been when you get a brand new car, and it just feels so good, right? It's clean. There's no rattles. Everything, there's just nothing that feels like that new car, right? And if you maintain the car, if you take it in for its checks, if you give it the gas and the oil, and frankly, we have had a car that was not given oil, and quite legit, it's done.
It sees up the engine?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
you're done. There's nothing else you can do if you run out of oil, boom. But do any of you have a dad that restored a car or that was a car guy? I happen to have a dad who restored this old Thunderbird. And it was mint condition, like new leather seats, white wall tires, the most beautiful cherry red paint on it. And it was a convertible. And I remember when we first got it, the thing, it was a bucket of bolts that was my mom's exactly. It was like the top was all ripped and shredded, and it took him a while. It took him multiple years to like save up the money, get the next thing fixed. And by the time it was brand new, or it looked like it was restored, it ran beautifully. And it was a showpiece. It was a show stopper. And it was old. That analogy is so real for our bodies because we sort of take it for granted. We sort of get the car, run into the ground, and maybe we think, we'll sell it, we'll get a new one. I'm gonna drive this for 130,000 miles. I'm gonna kick it to the curb and get something new. Our bodies are built for a lifetime of performance. And when you have a breakdown, when you have a tire, like imagine what would happen if we got a flat tire and we just left the car. We're not going to leave the car on the side of the road. We're not going to keep driving on it. You have to deal with it. And I think that's what this shift is about. That we have all gotten to this stage in our lives that, the car, it's an older model.
When you think of it this way, you have to do two things to a car. You have to put the right things in, right? If you're putting bad gas in there,
gas and oil fluids.
You got to put the right inputs in the car. So for us, we got to put the right inputs, diet, nutrition. And then you got to do maintenance, right? We got to periodically, flush out the brake fluid, put new transmission fluid. Periodically you got to do that. Well, in the body, that's detox. Do we need to detox go on a cleanse every single day? No. And I wouldn't even suggest that. But I say, hey, do it once a year. Do a cleanse. Even if it's just 30-day cleanse, do a cleanse once a year. You're doing maintenance on your car. And then make sure you're putting good inputs into the vehicle, which is which is good nutrition and diet, so that you have all of the things that the vehicle needs to move, right? You need all the things for the car to move and all the parts to move properly. Same with our body. All the different parts are our organs, right? Your starter, your alternator, all these things. You could draw a correlation between each one of those and each organ.
Yeah.
And in order for those organs to run, it needs the right fuel, which may be certain vitamins, minerals, sugars, fats, proteins. And you're going to do that if you're doing those two things. Put the good inputs in and then periodically do maintenance. It's really that simple. To be perfectly candid.
You're right.
And for those that are, when it comes to the liver, I've had quite a number of thyroid patients that all they had was liver. They just had liver dysfunction. So they weren't converting. Their liver was making enough, or their thyroid was making enough hormone, but their liver wasn't converting. And just by kind of cleaning up the diet and kind of clearing out the liver, getting on like that Tudka product, within 60 days, suddenly their thyroid is converting from T4 to T3. And it's not that we fixed anything. We didn't fix anything. The thyroid was already doing what it was supposed to do. It was the liver that wasn't doing its job because it was bogged down, and we just needed to kind of clean it out. And when you do that, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens over years and years and years.
Most women starts to get bogged down.
Well, think about this. Most women that have autoimmune thyroid, and I say women because 98% of my thyroid patients were women. But most women that have thyroid issues, they don't have it when they're 15.
No.
They start to get it, mid, late 20s, early 30s. That's usually when they start to see it. And by that time, they've had 20 to 30 years to beat up the vehicle without any maintenance. And so accumulate, sludge or accumulating toxins. And when you can't get that out, now it's going to start affecting the function of the liver. It can affect function of other organs. And so just by having really good liver health, you'll start to notice that you have better skin, that you just have a better metabolism, your blood sugar regulates better. I mean, there's so many things that you'll physically feel just by really good liver health.
I want people to know that when things are going wrong, like sometimes I hear people blame it on genetics. When somebody looks really great, when it seems like they're really healthy, great genes. And obviously we know that the genetics are all over the board, but you have so much within your control to feel great, and it starts at the very, very ultimate basic of being hydrated, of getting appropriate amount of sleep, of fueling your body with those vitamins and minerals. And the more that I sit here in this podcast and learn about it, the more doctors that come on and talk to us, every single expert that I talk to says the same thing. The body is made to heal itself. And it's amazing. And that doesn't take, it takes time for the body to do what it's got to do, just like it takes time for when you plant a seed, it takes a while for a plant to grow and for fruit to come out, right? But the sooner you start and the sooner that you listen to your body and take those signals as a language that is speaking to you and saying, I need support, then you can feel better. And I think that the longer that I sit here listening to you, listening to other experts, it makes me so excited. It gives me so much hope. And that's literally what I just want to pass on.
Because it's not complicated. Nothing we just explained was complicated, right? And when you really break that down, and I always come back to this, when I developed the concept of foundational medicine wellness, that's what it came down to. The human body's self-healing organism, when put in the right condition, meaning right inputs and removing, putting in all the good things and taking out all the bad things. And it really is that simple. And truth is simple, right? Well, what's one first thing you try to detect from a lie when someone's telling you why they were late or whatever? The more elaborate the story gets, you're like, okay, this is getting way too complicated. If you would just said, hey, whatever. But the more elaborate the story gets, the more complicated you're like, okay. Truth is simple. And, if you believe in a higher power, a God, which we do, obviously, everything's deliberate. Everything, this body was put together. If you really want to be in awe in God, start studying the human body and anatomy and physiology, because you're going to be like, this is so insanely amazing.
Well, even
how
when
everything works together.
We sat at lunch. We just had lunch before we were recording, and Watts has had a bunch of Chinese medicine training, and so we talked to the Nicole, who is a neurologist, and the insight that you can get from your eye about your health. We were talking about the hand, how on your hand in Chinese medicine, the map of your hand is linked to every single organ, every system on your body. Then you brought up the ear, that the map of the ear is linked to every organ in your body, and the same thing on your foot. Mm-hmm. Like the way things are connected, the miraculous. I will tell you this. There's this guy that I listen to occasionally, and his name is Peter Crone, and he calls himself the mind architect, and he's really a mindset coach. And first foremost of anything in terms of mindset, he teaches this importance of having self-compassion and an understanding of how amazing you are in terms of being a creation. And he says, if you want to be in awe, just look in the mirror at your eyeball and look at the color, look at the facets, Look at how you focus, look at what you can see, look at the way it detects light and darkness, look at how the input affects your mind, look at how, we know what the light does to the circadian, and then just think about that iridology, look at the genetics, look at the intricacy of one human eye that is completely individual for every single human that's ever existed. And that concept alone should teach you how spectacular of a creation you are just in your eye. And then times that by how many systems and how many things that are such absolute miracles in our bodies. And I think that fascination and that respect that we can have is worth the time and the energy that we put into the way that we care for ourselves, the way that we treat others as well. That everybody that is walking on this planet deserves that same respect and deserves to be here just as much. And I think that there's a lot of, it just really humbles me when I get thinking about it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Hopefully some of this information helps, people, and because some of these little pesky symptoms that people have are quite simple to fix. And unfortunately, oftentimes those pesky symptoms, when you go to your doctor, they want to throw medication at it and it doesn't fix it. Because your body's not medication deficient.
And medication isn't fuel.
Mm-hmm. No, it's black tape in many cases over the check engine light.
So, quick teeny tiny recap as we end, which is that if you or someone that you love has had the gallbladder removed, please know that as you support the liver, it will continue to support the most essential systems in your body. So don't ignore it. Don't let it go. And that product that we've talked about a little bit, we have benefited from it in my family. I know that a lot of people have benefited it from Aegis, which is Dr. Watts' supplement company. And he doesn't come on here. And I've heard this spiel. He doesn't come on here to try to sell the products. But it is so helpful when we understand why. And that is why he comes on this podcast. And I appreciate your insight and what you do. So, thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you next time on The Shift.
Welcome to The Shift Podcast. On this show, Dr. Vohn Watts, a chiropractor and founder of Foundational Wellness, shares his insights on how the body functions as a whole system, along with the principles he uses to help people get on the path to better health. Please remember, the information shared on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended to replace medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Every person is unique, and your health decisions should always be made in consultation with a qualified healthcare professional who knows your individual circumstances. Neither Dr. Watts nor this podcast are responsible for any actions you choose to take based on the discussions in these episodes.